While assembling the counterweight stack and during installation of the optional Series 2 car body counterweights, 360-degree swing is permitted. Warning: to prevent tipping or structural damage, do not lift more than 40,000 pounds. Do not exceed a 26-foot radius. Do not lift more than 2 side boxes at a time, and be sure to install the Series 2 car body counterweights before installing the upper counterweight stack. When finished, a Series 1 configuration will have 2 boxes on each side, and a Series 2 will have 3 boxes on each side. Be sure all boxes are pinned to each other. Before installing the counterweight stack, check that both counterweight limit switches are properly installed at the rear of the crane. Test both limit switches as instructed in the counterweight limit switch adjustment folio in your operator's manual. To install the upper counterweight stack, use the boom hoist control in the cab to raise the boom until the mast is vertical. Back your 777 up to the counterweight tray, staying centered to and square with the tray. Disconnect the counterweight lifting pendants from their storage positions on the mast. Then raise the boom butt further until the lifting pendants can be connected to the counterweight lifting links, using the pins just removed from the mast. Now, lower the boom until the handling pendants attached to the pivot frame can be released from their storage positions, and fold the brackets into their storage position. It is very important to fold the brackets into their storage position because otherwise they will be sheared off when raising the counterweight stack. At this time, select and confirm the setup mode and retrieve the remote control from its storage position. The remote control has enough cable to allow the operator to stand safely alongside the rear of the crane and closely observe operation. Raise the boom butt once again until the handling pendants can be pinned to the lifting lugs on the counterweight tray. Then pull out the pins from the rear of the engine base and set them on top for easy access after the counterweights have been lifted into position. Now raise the counterweight. Note that the front end of the counterweight rises first. Always stand to the side of the counterweight while handling it. Never stand between the counterweight and the crane during assembly, nor go under the counterweight until it is securely pinned in place. The tray will roll along the engine frame to guide the counterweight until the front hooks engage the fixed pins on the engine base. Continue to raise the counterweight until the rear holes line up, at which time it can be pinned. The counterweight limit switches will prevent the counterweight from being lifted too high. Raise the boom butt until the counterweight lifting links are fully lowered and disconnect the pendants from the links. Finally, lower the boom butt until the mast is vertical and pin the pendants to the mast for storage. The remote control will not be needed anymore, so wind it up and store it. Then select and confirm standard mode and use the boom hoist control in the cab for the remaining steps. With the counterweights installed, the Model 777 can be used to assemble its own boom and jib. Consult the rigging guides in your operator's manual for the proper procedure to assemble your desired boom and jib combination. Warning: to prevent tipping or structural damage, do not exceed a 26-foot lifting radius or attempt to lift more than 40,000 pounds during boom and jib assembly. Manitowoc Crane's FACT connectors make boom assembly easy. Simply engage the pins in one section with the holes of the upper cord members in the adjacent section. The bottom connectors are automatically aligned for easy pinning. To prepare for connecting the boom butt to the assembled boom, first remove the assembly block. Slide the rope guide bar out of the way and spool in or tie off the wire rope. Lower the butt onto blocking, approximately 15 inches high, and unpin the wire rope guide from the end of the butt. Then raise the mast to rotate this sheave assembly, until it can be pinned to the lower wire rope guide. Pin it using the same pins removed earlier. Position the crane so the boom butt is in line with the boom. Travel forward slowly. Swing and boom up and down as necessary to align the fixed pins in the butt with the top connector holes in the insert. Check the appropriate capacity chart to see if the crawlers need to be blocked to raise your particular length of boom. If so, proceed as follows. Mark the ground at the center of both front rollers. Slowly travel several feet in reverse. Referring to the crawler blocking diagram in your operator's manual, place the required blocking on the ground at the points marked. Then travel forward slowly onto the blocks, swinging and booming up and down as necessary to engage the fact connectors. Slowly boom up only enough to align the bottom connector holes in the butt with the bottom connector holes in the insert and install the connector pins. Always stand outside the boom while installing the boom connector pins to avoid serious injury. Now, boom down enough to slacken the rigging pendants, unpin them from the upper wire rope guide, and pin them to the lugs on the mast for storage. Then lower the mast further and pin the 4 boom pendants to the pendant links on the end of the mast. Warning: do not attempt to access these areas by walking along the boom on its lacings. Use sturdy ladders, properly secured boards, or an approved personnel hoist to reach those areas that cannot be reached from existing catwalks or steps. When the boom pendants have been securely pinned to the mast, raise the boom up only enough for the pendants to become taut. Now, finish rigging the boom and jib. Again, do not tempt fate by walking on the top lacings to pull the wire rope the length of the boom. Rather, attach a lighter rope to the wire rope and pull it down to the boom tip. Finally, reeve the block and jib. Now you can remove the boom electrical cord from the junction box on the rotating bed and connect it to the cable reel for the block-up limit control. Refer to the block-up limit control adjustment folio in your operator's manual for proper setup and operation of this important safety device. After performing the pre-raising checks found in folio 1590, the boom can be safely raised. Check each of the following conditions and correct any defects before raising the boom. The crane must be on a firm, level surface. All connecting pins must be installed and properly retained. The crawler locking pins must be installed and properly retained. The car body jacks must be fully retracted and pinned in their stored positions, and their pads must be stored as well. Check that the boom and jib inserts and pendants are installed in the proper sequence according to the rigging drawing, and that their connector pins are installed and properly pinned. Ensure that the load lines are spooled tightly onto their drums and engaged with the proper shivs, and that they are securely anchored to wedge sockets at the boom and jib points or at the load block and weight ball. Remove all blocking, tools, and other items from the boom and jib. This includes ice if it is below freezing. Verify that the electronic boom angle indicator is correctly installed and adjusted according to the boom angle indicator adjustment folio in your operator's manual. Check also that the automatic boom stop is properly installed and adjusted according to the boom stop adjustment folio in your operator's manual. The block-up limit control must also have been properly installed and operational according to the block-up limit adjustment folio in your operator's manual. Be sure that the crane and any attachments have been properly lubricated according to the lubrication guide. Check the capacity chart for the boom and jib length you are going to raise to see if blocking under the crawlers is required and what the wind limitations are for safe operation. Only after confirming all of the points in this pre-raising checklist can you safely raise the boom. While disassembly is basically the reverse of the assembly procedure, certain aspects require special care. following Folio 1590 during disassembly is of the utmost importance. This video is not a substitute for the Manitowoc Model 777 Folio 1590. The purpose of this presentation is to familiarize riggers and operators with the assembly of the Manitowoc Model 777. Folio 1590 should be consulted throughout assembly and disassembly. Manitowoc Cranes Incorporated expects all assembly and disassembly steps to be performed by experienced personnel trained in the operation and direction of construction cranes.